When you look at Jordan Walker, a real bummer of a situation, steps on a sprinkler head, out for a week. What's kind of the latest on what we could see from Jordan Walker over the next two and a half weeks, and how the Cardinals might approach that situation with, opening day coming later this month?
Well, I think the Cardinals let out a collective exhale when it came to Jordan Walker, like you said, stepped on that sprinkler head tracking a fly ball in Tuesday's split squad game out in West Palm Beach. And anytime a player leaves in spring training, you just want to make sure that it's out of an abundance of caution. And it was indeed that way. I know the Cardinals were a little concerned about it, but no structural damage revealed for MRIs, just some inflammation. So Jordan Walker is just going to sit for the next week before the Cardinals ramp him back up. As of today, there are 18 spring training games remaining, so plenty of time for him to get back in there. This should not impact his potential opening day timeline. It's just about him getting the rest and the inflammation subsiding.
Yeah, kind of a weird spring, really, for this spring training squad for the Cardinals. Nolan Arenado still on the team. Who knew if he was still going to be on the squad come February? And then also a youth movement, kind of a first look at what could be this year. What have you really taken away out of this spring the most with this team as they kind of sit in a transition period?
Yeah, it is a transition period, but it also feels very similar to last year, almost like the Cardinals have one foot in both lanes. And when you're a fan, that can be frustrating. I think what the Cardinals need to figure out is how can they win as many games as possible by extending as much playing time to as many players as possible? And do they have enough to make this a competitive club next year? Look, we know fan apathy is at a high right now. Plenty of tickets still available for opening day, and we never say that in March in St. Louis. But I think fans are expressing their frustration and the lack of direction for this organization. So they've gone out and said that they're going to transition and focus on a youth movement, yet they still have a pretty veteran rotation and veterans in the infield. So to me, it kind of seems like they are essentially running the same roster back without Paul Goldschmidt, who of course was a very key part of it. Now, can the Cardinals win games and still extend playing time to their young players? That's what they're focusing on. That's one of their big questions, and that's what fans want to see. So far, though, we won't really know until the regular games start playing.
I know we could talk about this every single year, but how much stock can you put into spring training games?
Yeah, it's glorified practice, right? Guys are trying to get into routine. They're figuring out new things. We saw Jordan Walker before he got hurt, working on a new swing. Same with Nolan Gorman. Guys, especially pitchers, starting pitchers, are building up their innings, but they're also checking out their repertoire and their arsenal. What pitch sequences do they like? What do they not? If you're a closer like Ryan Helsley, he's working on potentially introducing a cutter this year. So individual performances, of course, you want to be great. Wilson Contreras had another great game today. His bat sure looks good, and first base looks good as well. But I'm not really all that concerned on the slower guys. Gorman coming out, had 7 strikeouts starting the week and 12 plate appearances. Those kinds of things aren't concerning to me like they would be in the regular season, just because guys are working on so many different things. Jacob, there's a reason spring training games and the spring training calendar is so long. It's so players can get acclimated before the regular season begins.
All right, I think the big, cloud over the Cardinals of the last couple of years, really, not only the players and who's going to be here and how many games they're going to win, but who can watch the games and where they're going to watch the games as they announce it with KMOV and Gray Media today. What kind of difference does that make for fans?
This is really exciting, I think, because for the first time in, 15 years, Cardinals fans have a way to watch a game through cable here on Channel 4. And you're looking at ways for the fan base to get reconnected to the organization. We just talked about this, the sense of apathy in St. Louis. St. Louis is a baseball town for a reason, and finding multiple ways to get fans invested and having ways for fans to actually watch the games is super important. For years now, we've heard it all throughout media. Not a lot of ways for fans outside of the market, outside of St. Louis, to watch Cardinals baseball. The St. Louis Cardinals fan base transcends all throughout the Midwest. So hopefully this is a great way to continue bringing in fan attention and fan action to a team that really needs it right now.
So as you mentioned, 18 games left. What are kind of the hopes of this team through the next 18 games?
Well, the biggest thing the Cardinals need to decide, and this is something that was advertised on the first day of spring training, is who is playing center field. It should have been a traditional competition between Michael Ciani and Victor Scott II, but because of the aforementioned points of trying to play as many young players as possible and getting playing time for Nolan Gorman and Lars Nootbaar at the top of that list, the Cardinals might try to put Nootbaar in center consistently to open up playing time for other players. So right now, there are 3 players vying for the starting center field job, all with pros, all with cons on what you're looking for, and no true front runner. My expectation is that this center field battle will go down to the wire, and it also impacts other positions. If Nolan Gorman is playing second base and Lars Nootbaar is in center field, Where are you putting Brendan Donovan? Does Michael Ciani make the roster? Does Victor Scott make the roster? What about Alec Burleson? There's a trickle effect to all of these players, and that's why the center field battle is so important. It's not just a couple of players in one position being impacted. It is entirely the opening day roster.
All right, Katie Wu, thank you.
Thanks.